Fat Joe has been trending this past few weeks for his comments on Math Hoffa's podcast, mainly for his comments on hip-hop, Latinos, and FBA, Foundational Black Americans, a group that not too many of you knew about just 3 weeks ago before this ordeal. This isn't the first time Fat Joe has gone viral for his comments on hip-hop. A couple of years ago, he caught a lot of heat for saying, quote, Latinos and blacks created hip-hop 50-50. Now, I don't know if I agree or can confirm with the percentage of 50-50, but what I don't like about this FBA group is that they are saying that Latinos had no impact on the culture and creation of what we know as hip-hop today. I don't know the 50-50 percentage thing Fat Joe said. I don't know if it's 30-70, 60-40, 20-80. But I do know there is no way Latinos contributed zero to the creation of hip-hop like FBA are claiming. Shortly after Fat Joe went viral the first time a couple of years ago for saying blacks and Latinos both created hip-hop, I went through my Rolodex. And by Rolodex, I mean my phone. I went through my Rolodex of hip-hop pioneers in my phone. Because yes, I know a lot of people in this industry and a lot of pioneers. I do a show every single Tuesday with a pioneer of hip-hop. You'd be surprised on who I know. You people in the comments, silly people out there. But I went through my Rolodex and I decided to call Prince Whipperwhip, a person who had been on my show twice before in the past, before that whole Fat Joe thing happened a couple of years ago. I wanted Whipperwhip on my show to discuss Fat Joe's statements back then. Now, this goes back to September 2022. Thankfully, at the time of our call, Whipperwhip had no idea that Fat Joe even made these comments. So everything we discussed that day was fresh to him. He had no idea Fat Joe had just gone viral for saying blacks and Latinos both created hip-hop. And my guess is he had no idea who or what FBA even meant back then. But shortly after my interview with him, Lord Jamar, hip-hop legend, podcaster, YouTuber, had him on his show, and they discussed the same exact thing. But I'm going to play a portion of my interview with Whipperwhip where we discussed Fat Joe's comments a couple of years ago. And then I want you to go check out the interview that Whipperwhip did with Lord Jamar shortly after he did the interview with me, because I was the first one to have Whipperwhip on my show to discuss this situation. But will Whipperwhip agree with Fat Joe? Or will he agree with people like Lord Jamar and FBA who say hip-hop was only created by foundational black Americans? Let's go back to September 2022. God, it seems like a lifetime ago. Before we do, please hit that like button. And if this is your first time joining the channel, please hit that subscribe button, excuse me. Here is Prince Whipperwhip on my show about 2.5 years ago, right after Fat Joe went viral the first time. Before we get started, Prince, I just had Mr. Schick from The Mean Machine on my show, and he briefly mentioned De La Calle, the MTV documentary series. Tell me a little bit about that before we get started.
Well, I mean, before folks get, before history gets rewritten, somebody was wise enough to get direct info while we're still alive. Hey, but no, they were doing the just that basically. How can I reword it? The anatomy of hip hop. It's kind of like the Latinos the Latin aspect of his hip hop, because we've basically been around since day one. So all of a sudden,
did you hear that? We've been around since day one. But let's continue. This is just him talking about an upcoming documentary that he was going to be in, discussing the Latinos' contribution to hip hop. I wonder if it ever came out. They're probably, I'm telling you, man, I know a lot of people. I know a lot of pioneers. I've discussed this with a lot of people. And unfortunately now, a lot of them are afraid to come out and tell the truth about how they really feel. But believe me, that behind the scenes, they tell me what's really going on. But unfortunately, we live in this cancel culture, this doxing culture, this other kind of culture where if you disagree with a large group of people, you might just have problems on your hands. So they want to just not even worry about all that. But when we're sitting behind the scenes, having a brew, discussing this stuff, they're letting it be known. But anyway, this is Prince Whipperwhip on my show 2.5 years ago. And we're going to be discussing the Fat Joe situation from when he went viral back then.
So, and I think now everybody's getting conscious over who did what first and who's contributing and all that good stuff that, just makes this crazy world go round.
Well, you know what, man, that's exactly why I wanted you on, and that was the main conversation I had with Mr. Schick of the Mean Machine, because he was there at the beginning of hip-hop. Shout out Mr. Schick of the Mean Machine. I also interviewed him, hip-hop pioneer, Latino hip-hop pioneer. But let's keep going. Prince Whipperwhip is about to get into the Fat Joe situation. Early stages, and you were definitely there as well. Your name was brought up in our interview. And, you mentioned history being rewritten. And, right now we have a bunch of 22-year-olds, 23-year-olds running with certain narratives of hip-hop and who created it, who was there, who wasn't there, who started it, this, and that. But I want your opinion on this, my dude. Fat Joe is getting a lot of backlash about his comments on early hip-hop. Are you familiar with what's been going on with him for the past couple of days?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay, fine. I'm glad that it makes it even more better. He had no idea what we were talking about, so that made it even better. How awesome. He had no idea that Fat Joe had just went viral. These are Prince Whipperwhip's fresh views right after finding out that Fat Joe went viral for saying both blacks and Latinos created hip-hop. Let's see what Prince Whipperwhip had to say, just not even knowing anything about anything. Hip-hop. Are you familiar with what's been going on with him for the past couple of days?
No, I haven't.
Okay, fine. I'm glad that it makes it even more better. So he's been facing some backlash. He said, and I quote, "Blacks and Latinos both created hip-hop 50-50. And for some reason that has, some are agreeing, some are disagreeing, but it has made him gone viral, and there's been a lot of negativity attached to it. But you were there. What are your thoughts on his comment? Is Fat Joe spot on, or is he way off?